Welcome back to Confidently. We are in building block 3, market your brand. And today I'm teaching you how to use the Momentum Map Launch Plan Part 1. Now, remember where we are in the Confidently Success Map, where you're achieving progress, not perfection, to market and scale your expert-based business. And we're right here in the Momentum Map Launch Plan. So, what is the Momentum Map? It is our simple yet highly effective way to launch our programs, products, and services. And it's in 3 parts. Launch type 1, which will hear me refer to as the L1. Launch type 2, which you'll hear me refer to as the L2. And launch type 3, which you'll hear me refer to as the L3. What is the launch type 1 or L1? It is the launch that you use to get seen and heard. And basically, these are your lead magnets, your opt-ins, your freemiums, the thing that you're giving to people, the offer that you're giving to people that is free or low fee to get to know your brand and expertise. This offer is for getting your audience an easy way to see your value and to start creating a relationship with them. Launch type 2 or the L2 is the beta offer. It's a launch to actually get paid. And this is the offer that you built inside of the messaging building block, okay? This offer is for any program that you haven't tested or tested less than 3 times and hit your launch milestones. And what I mean by that is so many people jump to the L3, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, without properly testing their offer out at least 3 times. And that doesn't mean you don't get paid those 3 times. You actually get paid, but you find out a lot about your offer and how to refine it and decide if you want to graduate it to the L3, which is what we call a pro launch. This offer has been validated by the market and is considered an MVP, which means it's called a minimum viable program, meaning it's been tested in the market using the L1 and the L2. In fact, most of you listening to this will not have an L3 to start. You'll probably have an offer that you've tried once, didn't feel that satisfied with the results, or you haven't launched one at all. Be sure that what you're really focusing on in Confidently is getting really good at L1s and L2s. And once you hit those milestones 3 times in a row, you have a bona fide L3 offer, which is absolutely fantastic because it's going to allow you to make even more income and impact by using more advanced traffic strategies, okay? When you get to this level, it requires affiliate and larger ad spends in order for you to hit those, let's say, $100,000 months that you may be looking for. But remember, in Confidently, our goal is to get a consistent 10K month and then make 10K days and then get that elevated to be able to advance to the next level. So with that in mind, you're going to hear me talk about the L1 and L2 most of the time moving forward in this training, but that doesn't mean that your L3 is not going to happen. And I also want to make sure you understand that the L3 is not a new offer from an L2. It's actually the L2 proven. So a lot of people, when they look at our momentum map, they sometimes think it's like, okay, great, I have my freemium, and then I get the L2, and then it's another offer above that. That's not how it works. The L3 is actually a proven L2, okay? I just wanna make sure you really understand that before I continue. All right, let's understand how to set up and give you some examples of what an L1 and L2 is. And there are actually 2 critical L1s, 2 types of L1s, the L1 Easy Yes and the L1 Deep Dive, okay? The L1 Easy Yes is typically an easy way for people to consume and get to know what you're up to. So those things include ebooks, checklists, quizzes, maybe a software as a service, an easy tool, reports, videos, audios, and email series. The question you want to always ask is, what's the easiest for them to consume? And what's the easiest for you to set up, okay? You want to start with that first so that you don't take a ton of time getting this out to market, because what you're really trying to prove is that somebody wants your offer to begin with. companion to the L1 EZS is the L1 Deep Dive. And typically, these are the three main areas that on our campus we've tested with experts, anyone who's a service provider and an expert in their specialty. And those three are webinars, challenges, and live events, either online or offline, which includes things like summits, okay? The question for you is, which one is the easiest for you to choose and set up right now? Actually, I would ask you that question. In our boot camp, many people said one of the three. I'm curious to you, which one do you think would be the easiest for you to set up, a webinar, a challenge, or a live event? Okay. And then finally, your L2 offer is the offer that you declared in the messaging building block. So if you haven't done that yet, you want to go ahead and stop this video and go back to the messaging building block and make sure that you have an offer to be able to plot into this formula. Okay. So to make it easy for you or give you an example, I want to show you an example of my company and my campus's L1 EZS, L1 Deep Dive, and L1 or L2, L3 offer. So for example, our L1 EZS, I've been featured in a lot of media, and so I use podcast interviews alongside our most popular EZS L1, which is called the Brand Archetype quiz, and that's what we run traffic and promote on the front end all the time, okay? And then for the L1 Deep Dive, I actually have two that either I run alone or I run together. And one is a challenge called the Consistent and Confident Challenge, and the next is a webinar that we call the Confident Marketing Masterclass, which then is the offer to the Confidently program. And by the way, if you're here listening to this training, you most likely, 90% of you came through one of these L1s to decide to invest in your business by joining Confidently. And there are two levels. There's the club level and there's the pro level where you get one-on-one coaching and my personal feedback on your work. So that's our layout for our launch. So now the key takeaway that I want from this specific module is that each step, you want to look at it as an offer because you are offering them the opportunity, you're inviting them to learn more about what they're interested in using your solutions. The main thing is, this is the thing that you want to get good at. That's where we worked on headlines and all that type of stuff before. And as we continue down the marketing path in this building block, all of these assets will come together. You're actually going to build these out and launch them with us in the Confidently program. This is what we call the momentum map sequence of events. Okay. So right now you're going to do a first draft. What is your momentum map sequence? Go ahead and brainstorm what your L1 EZS is, your L1 Deep Dive is, and plot in your L2 offer from the messaging building block. And then go ahead and do the work. So what is your momentum map sequence? Go ahead and use your workbook to declare and work on that. Pick a launch date 8 to 12 weeks from this date to work out the entire marketing building block on. So we're going to get into more details as you go through this entire building block series. But right now, just pick a date and let's see if it actually fits as you continue down this training. Now, if you want to get feedback on your momentum sequence, make sure to be scheduled at your monthly coaching that the club level receives or the strategy clinic with me if you're in the pro level, and post your momentum map sequence inside of our forum. Remember, this is just the rough draft, so don't worry if it's not refined because we're going to get there. Check this lesson off and get to the next lesson within 48 hours so you can keep your momentum. I'll see you in the next module. Welcome back to Confidently. We are in building block 3, marketing your brand. This is Momentum Map Launch Plan Part 2. Just to remind you, this is where we are in the Confidently Success Map, where we're achieving progress, not perfection, to market and scale your expert-based business. And we're right here in the Momentum Map Launch Plan. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the training right before this one, let me just do a quick review. We talked about that there are 2 types of L1s, the EZS and the Deep Dive, and then the L2 offer that you declared in the messaging building block. So remember, if you didn't do that work, it is important to do that first so that you can properly follow this training and get great results from it. So remember, an L1 Easy Yes looks like an ebook, a checklist, a quiz, a software as a service tool, a report, a video, an audio, or an email series. And I asked you to brainstorm which one you think is the easiest for you to choose and set up right now. And then the L1 Deep Dive is one of 3 main ways that experts sell their programs online: the webinar, the challenge, or the live event, either online or offline. And I asked you again, which one is the easiest for you to choose and set up right now? So I assume you did the homework from the last lesson. And again, if you didn't, no big deal. Go ahead and pause this video and go back to that and do that first, because it's going to be critical to get the rest of this going. So now it's time that, since you did your brainstorm and chose a path, we want to refine the path. We want to ask some critical questions to see if these were the right choices for the next launch that you have coming up. So an L1 Easy Yes has one job. It uses a headline that grabs them in a way that makes it an easy next step to not spend more than 20 minutes consuming your L1. Okay, so the question is, to refine that L1, does it do that? So first, you're going to write the headline to describe and verify that this is true. And if you want some help on headlines, we did that in the messaging building block. So go ahead and you can use that as help to do this. And the second question is, do you already have the offer for the L1 built? If you don't, if it takes you more than a day to build, it's too long or complex. So you want to choose something different or decide the scope of the Easy Yes L1 is smaller. Remember, actually more is not better when it comes to the Easy Yes L1, because it's really the first step that your audience has in consuming what you have. If you overwhelm them with too much information, that's actually going to make them not excited to jump in and consume it. So right now, I want you to take a pause, take a look at what you wrote in your homework for the last training, ask yourself, does it do this? And then do the homework to verify. The next piece to refine your momentum map sequence is your L1 deep dive. And it has one job too. It needs to be the next logical / emotional step, meaning both, from the L1 Easy Yes. So much so that they would be willing to commit at least 30 to 90 minutes with you consuming that L1. So now you have to ask yourself, does your L1 deep dive do that? So next is write the headline and or look at your 3 secrets, which you did in the messaging building block as well. I taught you how to do that. So again, if you didn't do that, take a look at that module to describe and verify that this is true. And if you already have the offer for the L1 built, fine, as long as it meets this criteria. But if you haven't built it yet, if it takes you more than 2 days to build, it's too long or complex and you want to refine the scope of it, okay? Let's talk about the L2, L3 offer. It has one job. It needs to be the next logical, emotional step from the L1 deep dive. So much so, they would be willing to commit their time, energy, and money to invest in themselves with your expertise, because this is where the sale is made. So you have to ask yourself, does your L2, L3 offer do that? So make sure you write the headline and or look at your 3 secrets to describe and verify this is true. Now this would be at the top of your sales page when you build it, and don't worry, we're going to be building sales pages as part of the marketing building block. But right now what we're doing is we're refining what you chose to be in your momentum map sequence, okay? Do you already have the structure for your L2 offer outline, meaning the actual thing, the service, the program you're selling? Remember, in Confidently, I like to teach you to sell it before you create it. And we covered all of this in the messaging building block. But if it takes you more than 2 days to build it, it's probably too long or complex when you sell it. So make sure that it follows these guidelines when you're choosing your momentum map sequence. And especially if you're brand new to this, or you haven't had a program sell as well as you like, please do this work in totality before you change the steps, because it's partly why things probably didn't sell to begin with before. Okay, so now if it's true of looking through these 3 filters and questions, has your momentum map sequence changed at all? If not, great. If it has, go ahead and fill them in right here. And the main thing is, if they don't, you have to revise them. You want to take your draft and move it into that next revision. Now we're going to keep refining this work while we're in the marketing building block, but it's important to put a line in the sand so that we can start linking your messaging while we build out the campaign. So go ahead and set 30 minutes of your Pomodoro sprint and have a revised momentum map sequence done, and perhaps some notes on what you need to build as part of this launch. Your goal is to have this done so we can start building more marketing assets as we move through the marketing building block. So with that said, time to get to work. Using your worksheet, create your revised momentum map sequence and share your supporting headline. If you want feedback on your sequence, make sure to schedule to be at monthly coaching in the club level or the strategy clinic that I host if you're in the pro level. Post your revised momentum map sequence inside of our forum and check off this lesson on your Confidently Success Map, and make sure to keep your momentum by doing the next lesson within 48 hours of completing this one. I'll see you in the next training.